Hello everyone, good day. I am teacher Michael and I will be your online science teacher for today. So basically students, for the past days we have been learning or we had learned about the structural adaptations of leaves that help them conduct photosynthesis and survive in the surrounding environment. However, we have been mentioning as well this so-called photosynthesis, and for the past years I know for a fact that we have learned much about photosynthesis, the overview of it, like that we know that this is a process of plants by which they make food. But how do they do it? What do they need? And what do they produce as they do photosynthesis? So today we will be learning these things. So to present you the objectives of today's discussion, the first objective is to define photosynthesis, which I know that you know already. Second is to identify the reactants and products of photosynthesis by making a diagram. Third is you will be able to differentiate light-dependent from light-independent reactions. And the last one is to explain why plants produce glucose. So basically, the discussion of today's lesson, or our discussion for today, is the in-depth learning. We will be having an in-depth understanding as to how photosynthesis happen in plants. So our topic for today is all about photosynthesis. But before I will bring you to the plateau where we could learn much about photosynthesis, I would like to give you these guide questions first. First one is, what is the formula for photosynthesis? Label the reactants and the products. Second is to cite and describe the two different reactions happening in the chloroplast. And the third one is to explain why do plants need to produce glucose. So before we further discuss, I would like everyone to use their iPad and take a photo of these guide questions, because I'll be expecting you to answer these guide questions later. Now, in order to answer these questions, I would like you to scan this QR. Alright, so you have just scanned the code, and I believe you already have answers to those guide questions given. Let's start now our formal discussion. So what is photosynthesis? We all know that photosynthesis is the plant's process in making food. As the origin of the word, photo means light and synthesis means making. But photosynthesis is not basically making light, but it is about utilizing light in order to produce food. Now, in photosynthesis, we all know that plants do conduct photosynthesis, but I just want to ask you everyone, are the plants the only organisms capable of performing photosynthesis? The answer is no. Basically, there are also some protists and some bacteria that are capable of producing their own food. However, the process is not as complex compared with the plant's process of producing their own food. So now, since we will be understanding how photosynthesis is, and since I have mentioned how complex photosynthesis in plants is, I will be presenting to you the needed reactants and the resulting products of photosynthesis. So for photosynthesis to take place, we need three important products, or reactants, I mean. First is carbon dioxide. Second is the water. And third is light, of course. Now, as these carbon dioxide, water, and energy are present, plants will be able to conduct photosynthesis, allowing them to produce oxygen and glucose. So this is the formula for photosynthesis. The carbon dioxide, water, and light energy, these are what we call the reactants. And the oxygen and glucose, on the other hand, are the products. When we say reactants, these are the inputs needed in order to perform photosynthesis. And the products, of course, these are the items produced by the plant during photosynthesis. But this particular photosynthesis, but plants does not uh, right away or immediately utilize these things all at once. No, there are several stages, okay, or there are two different reactions happen in order for the plants to arrive with the products that they wanted to produce. So now we will be learning two reactions happening in the chloroplast. This has something to do with the utilization of the reactants needed. We have the two reactions. First is light-dependent reaction, and the second one is the light-independent reaction. For the light-dependent reaction, this reaction takes place in the thylakoids, whereas the light-independent reaction takes place in stroma. And by just dissecting or by just analyzing the terms themselves, light-dependent, light-independent, so these two reactions vary in the presence of, or these two reactions actually varies in the sense that one depends on light while the other is not. Now, how? Let's start with the light-dependent reaction. So from the word itself, dependent, so for the light-dependent reaction to take place, it needs light energy. Aside from the light energy, it also needs one more reactant, which is water. Okay? Now, as the water and the light energy undergo light-dependent reaction, it will produce oxygen and energy. Now, oxygen is just a byproduct of photosynthesis. This is not really their main goal. However, as they go on photosynthesis, they produce oxygen. Now, the main energy or the main reason why plants undergo light-dependent reaction is to produce energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. So this process is the light-dependent reaction. And as the light-dependent reaction ends, the second reaction will take over, which is the light-independent reaction. Now, remember that in the light-dependent reaction, one of the products we have is the energy, okay, in the form of ATP and NADPH. As soon as this energy is being produced already by plants, this energy will now be utilized again together with the remaining reactant, which is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide and the energy, as the carbon dioxide and energy undergo light-independent reaction, they will be able to produce glucose. And glucose is the one needed by plants. This is the reason why they undergo photosynthesis. Plants do not undergo photosynthesis in order to produce oxygen. So this is now the overview of both reactions involved in photosynthesis. So we have light energy and water, which will undergo light-dependent reaction, producing oxygen and energy in the form of ATP and NADPH. Now, as these energy now, the ATP and NADPH will be utilized together with the carbon dioxide by plants or these NADPH and ATP plus carbon dioxide will now undergo light-independent reaction in order to produce glucose. So now the main product of photosynthesis, as you know, is this glucose. Now, you might be asking, okay, I would like to ask you, why do plants need to produce glucose? Any idea? You may pause this video for a while and think for 3 minutes. Basically, the reason why plants produce glucose is for them to, or plants need to produce glucose because this is needed to produce ATP energy, okay, in a process called cellular respiration. So through the presence of glucose, they will be able to produce ATP energy, and which is actually necessary or vital or critical for cells to be able to carry out their cellular activities. So without glucose, there will be no ATP energy and everything will be affected. So that's all for today's lesson. And before we formally end the discussion, let me have a checkpoint first, okay? So if you'll be able to answer these questions, it means that you have fully understood. If you will be able to answer the questions correctly, it means that you have fully understood our discussion. And that will tell us that we have achieved all the objectives of today's lesson. So you may pause the video after each question for you to have enough time to think and answer the questions. The first question would be, what is the formula for photosynthesis? What are the reactants and the products? Second, cite and describe two different reactions happening in the chloroplast. And the third one is, explain or why do plants need to produce glucose? So if you will be able to answer all these questions correctly, I'll be very happy to know that. So that's it for today's lesson. I hope you've learned something and I hope you have understood everything. So if you have questions, kindly drop your comments or can you comment down below. Write your questions in there and I will try to answer those tomorrow during our lesson. And please also don't forget to take down notes of those important key points in your notebook because I'll be checking that before we start the lesson. Okay, so I hope everything is clear, so take good care of yourself and have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.